Wey-kp. Hello, everyone. It's a gentleman, and welcome my relatives. You know, as we gather here this weekend, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about your children. I want you to think about our Secwepemc language, Secwepemc Nation, and words that describe how you would protect your children. Words like kanuchentwach, helping each other, Splatsin, our relatives. I want you to think of those words because on January 1st of this year, in 2020, Canada enacted legislation to recognize our inherent jurisdiction and laws for our children. Now we have a responsibility that they've opened that door to stand up our law for our Samamalt, for the Wey-kp, those yet unborn, our ancestors.
Secwepemc law is what binds us, it's what connects us to the land, it's what connects us to each other, and it's what connects us to all the inhabitants of the earth. It's how we treat each other, it's how we treat ourselves. We infuse the laws into the stories, and those stories are handed down generation to generation. And so it's that way that we actually teach our laws.
The time of winter when the snow comes and this happens is really the time when we really told those stories to each other. And that's how it was transmitted for, again, thousands of years. It happened winter after winter after winter. And there's a tremendous amount of lessons in those stories if you listen to them.
From the day that you were born, everybody was taught the stories. They may sound simple, but yet ultimately very profound. I like to use the notion of a haiku. It's a very simple poem, but you know, to unpack it it's dense.
The work that we're doing here at this gathering, sharing the Secwepemc stories, is basically educating, revitalizing the stories and revitalizing the laws that are contained within those stories. And that's the way of keeping our people together and connecting us to our culture. The story of Owl, I think, is one of the most common stories that we like to share, and it's about looking after your children and your obligations to do so.
Our parents used to say to us, well, if you're not quiet, or if you run outside when you shouldn't be outside, the owl's going to take you away.
The story is about a young couple, right, and their baby is crying and crying, and so, and they want some peace and quiet, right? And so they set their baby outside, and the owl comes along and takes their child away.
And raises the child as his own, and teaches him to hunt and provide for his family, teaches him the things that child needed to know in order to support himself or herself.
And they train the child up, not so much in your traditional customs, but in their ways, right? But as is always the case, children always wonder, well, who is my parents? Who is my mother and father? And so the child makes a break for it from the owl and comes and finds his parents.
The law that comes from that is your obligation to care for your children and do your best, or someone will come and take them and raise them as their own.
A lot of these people have never heard these stories. This is the first time they've heard them. And you could see it on people, light bulbs going on. Okay, that's what that means. Okay. And you could see them talking about it and having really good discussions around it, because it gives them that opportunity to do what we used to do in the wintertime, is talk about those stories. We don't need to recreate anything. It's just right there. We need to lift it up and use it.
So we're grateful to host this gathering here this weekend, because a lot of the things we're being taught here, a lot of it was taken away from us. It was taken away by the Indian Act and by their law. When you're learning to make implements, and you're learning the songs and the drums and those things were taken away by law, legislation. We're bringing it back.
We have never given up fighting for our rights, fighting for recognition, for our rights to govern ourselves by our own laws.
The Indian Act legislation and the chief and councils under those systems were created by governments, not our governments, but the colonial governments. And they have damaged our relationship with one another, with other nations, and with the provincial and federal governments themselves. So for us to dust off, you might say, our Indigenous laws and bring those back to life for the purposes of managing our own lands, resources, and our people, I think it's a really positive thing that we're doing, and it's good that the public is paying attention to it, as well as the judiciary within the court system are making space for this to be a real thing, as opposed to something that they've tried to smother and extinguish for the last 150 years.
With gatherings as we see going on here, there's hope that we'll come together and be able to rise up and regain recognition over our ownership and jurisdiction over our homeland, which gives us back authority over our children. You know, I mean, that's huge. We put a wall between us and the owl.
We're going to see the nation prosper in many different ways over the next 10 years, and the children will be protected. You know, the language will revive itself. Our ceremonies and songs will get stronger. We're seeing a taste of it here where it's going to get stronger. Our families will start growing and look after themselves. I'm just grateful to be at this time in our history because, as Secwepemc people, we're going to stand up again.